funny, Martel. He was gonna he answer my question about Jaime, but I can go another direction with this will too, right? So you talked about earlier about this team possibly not making out the first round if we match up Boston and early exit and stuff like that. There's a side of me that I hope that happens, and then there's another side of me I want to go to the finals, right? And the side of me that's saying I hope it happens is because I feel like every time we go to the finals, they're like the front office is like, okay, let's just add a couple of pieces, like
Mhm.
role players and undrafted players that we're used to, and going with that. But do you think with an early exit, like we look at some the big names, even if we could afford them, if not, I know how the cap is looking right now. Like if Donovan Mitchell is a real target,
Mhm.
how the off season with Dame Lillard and stuff like that. Like, are those realistic names, or it's just like we can't afford it? It's we got to go with the people we have, at the moment, with free agency trades and stuff like that.
I think if there's a pivot in the organization, if they decide they got to, absolutely, it's possible. And I think this offseason we saw there was only one reason Dame didn't happen. That's Joe Cronin. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, he just didn't want to trade him, and whatever for whatever reason in his mind, he felt he could get a better package. And the deal that they got with DeAndre Ayton and all those other guys, Robert Williams, and that the draft picks. I mean, I thought it was a terrible deal when it happened, and I think now an NBA regular season later, I think we can all agree it was a terrible deal. And who knows? Maybe those draft picks in 28 and 29 turned out to be good players for Portland. But in the short term, it was a terrible deal. And I think in the midterm, it's a terrible deal. And I think eventually we'll see in the long term, it's a terrible deal. But to your question, yeah, I think the organization, the way I look at it with the Heat, they're never afraid to pivot, And I think the reason that we've seen this core now for 5 seasons is because of what we talked about earlier. They've won three. They've gone to three of the last four Eastern Conference. They've gone to two of the last four NBA Finals. It's hard for a team to pivot that core when they've gotten so close and they feel that a tweak here or a tweak there can help. And the reality is this: they made a move for Terry Rozier that I loved. I love the move for Terry, but man, this team just can't figure it out because they can't stay healthy. Right when they had about 72 hours where everything looked good, and then Duncan hurt his back,
Yeah.
and then Terry hurt his neck, and they're like, "Damn, what happened? The full health is never going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen." And they're starting to play without the full health. And like I said earlier, I don't know if Terry's going to be ready for the playoffs if they do make the playoffs. Duncan's back is not 100%, but he's close enough where he looks like he's going to play tomorrow. So these are all questions that as an organization you got to sit there and sift through and say, okay, was it injuries? Was it poor play? Do we need to move? But I do think to answer your question, and I think Heat fans are wondering, yeah, I think they'd pivot. I think they'd absolutely pivot if this doesn't work out. But I think in their mind, they think it is going to work out because of the track record.